A Reuters report says that Huawei is planning to begin mass shipments of its new AI chip to China as early as next month.
China just dropped a bombshell on the global tech world. Huawei just announced a new AI chip that is more advanced yet more affordable than anything Nvidia has to offer. The advanced chip is called the 910C, and Huawei is ready to start mass production. The markets felt it instantly. Within hours of the announcement, Nvidia's stock plunged 6%, wiping out $150 billion in market value. A brutal hit to a company worth $2.5 trillion just days earlier. But the shockwave didn't stop there. In one swift move, China severed ties with two of the most critical players in the global chip ecosystem, ASML and TSMC. No phased transition, no diplomatic buffer, just a cold, calculated halt. Decades of global chip cooperation were cut off overnight. And in its place, Beijing is building something far more dangerous. To the outside world, it might look like revenge. But this isn't retaliation. It's revolution. A meticulously executed plan to take control of the world's most strategic technology. China isn't reacting anymore. It's rewriting the entire system. Semiconductors, the tiny chips inside your phone, car, computer, even life-saving hospital machines, are no longer just tools of progress. They've become weapons. For years, China relied on the West to power its rise. But when the US pressured the Netherlands to block ASML from servicing Chinese chip-making machines, freezing $15 billion worth of tech, China got the message loud and clear. Now it's flipping the switch. Beijing has abandoned the rules of the Western-led system, and that decision could upend everything, from global trade to military power to who dominates the next era of AI. But here's the terrifying part. Did Trump's chip war accidentally spark the creation of a completely separate Chinese tech empire? One that could lock the US out for good? This isn't just a trade dispute. It's the opening chapter in a high-stakes race for technological supremacy, because this Silicon showdown is only just beginning. The US-China chip war just escalated. Beijing has abruptly cut ties with two of the world's most critical semiconductor giants, ASML from the Netherlands and TSMC from Taiwan, and is now shifting to full-scale domestic production. At first glance, many in the West saw this as payback for years of US sanctions. But this isn't just retaliation. It's a radical reset. China has made a strategic decision to rebuild its entire tech ecosystem without Western help. And here's the real shocker. It might already be capable of doing just that. China's DeepSeek and Alibaba AI models have already shaken Silicon Valley. DeepSeek alone triggered a $600 billion plunge in Nvidia's valuation. And it achieved its results on a budget of just $6 million. This takes us back to the chip war and why they are so important. For a long time, China depended on chip makers from other countries to power its growth. But everything changed when the US pressured the Dutch government to block ASML from servicing Chinese chip-making machines. That move made over $15 billion worth of advanced Chinese chip-making equipment completely useless. These machines couldn't even be repaired anymore. That's when China realized that relying on foreign tech wasn't just risky. It was dangerous. So why did China walk away from the very companies it once relied on? And did Washington's restrictions backfire, accelerating the rise of a tech rival instead of stopping it? Let's take a closer look. The Chinese tech giant revealed its latest AI hardware, the Ascend 91C, designed to disrupt the current chip hierarchy. Right after this news, in under 24 hours, investor confidence in Nvidia cracked. The stock plunged over 7% across 2 sessions. That's a huge loss. Billions of dollars in value disappeared from Nvidia in less than 24 hours. Why is this such a big deal? Because the United States has spent years trying to stop China from making its own high-end computer chips. These chips are used for artificial intelligence, AI, which powers things like smart assistants, facial recognition, and robots. The US didn't want China to get ahead in this technology. But now, China might not need American help at all. Early benchmarks suggest the 910C packs serious computing muscle, possibly on par with Nvidia's flagship H100. And Huawei is already getting ready to produce the chip in large numbers. This is bad news for Nvidia. The US government recently banned Nvidia from selling its newest chip, the H20, to China. That created a gap, and Huawei is now stepping in to fill it. So how did Huawei manage to build this chip, even with all the US restrictions?
That chip, which combines two processors into a single package, would provide an alternative to NVIDIA's H20 chip that now faces restrictions in China from the Trump administration.
Huawei was smart. They combined two of their older chips, the Ascend 910B, to make the new, stronger 910C chip. They also worked with SMIC, a Chinese chip-making company, to produce some of the parts using advanced technology, even though it's not perfect. The production isn't easy, but it works well enough to start selling the chip. And China needs it now more than ever. NVIDIA's CEO, Jensen Huang, had even visited China recently, probably to keep business ties alive. But after this news, China might not need NVIDIA anymore. That trip may have been wasted, as this new chip from Huawei could change everything. Right now, NVIDIA is the leader in AI chips around the world. Their products are used in big tech companies, research labs, and even in things like self-driving cars. But if China starts using Huawei's chips instead, NVIDIA could lose a huge part of its market, especially since China is one of the biggest buyers of AI chips in the world. What makes this even more surprising is that Huawei is doing all of this while under US sanctions. The US has tried very hard to stop American companies from helping Huawei. They've blocked exports, banned software updates, and stopped chip sales. Now Huawei is striking back, not with talk, but with hardware that's ready to ship. This isn't just about business. This is about power. Who controls the future of artificial intelligence? Who builds the machines that run our cities, our apps, and our robots? Is this the beginning of NVIDIA's downfall? Will China take the lead in the AI chip race? The next few months could decide the answer. The tech war between the US and China just got much more serious, and the future of AI could look very different from what anyone expected. The impact is also being felt by other big chip makers such as ASML and TSMC. Let's take a look at how. ASML is the only company in the world that makes extreme ultraviolet EUV lithography machines. These are the most advanced tools used to make tiny chips with features as small as 3 or 5 nanometers. TSMC is the world's largest and most advanced chip manufacturer, producing about 90% of the world's top chips. Together, these two companies played a major role in supporting China's fast-growing tech sector. But in late 2024, the Dutch government revoked ASML's ability to repair or upgrade its machines in China. This move, pushed by the United States, instantly disabled billions of dollars worth of Chinese equipment. Around the same time, TSMC, afraid of facing US sanctions and because of rising political tensions with China, stopped accepting new Chinese contracts. China reacted fast. On January 18, 2025, it announced a full ban on all future business with ASML and TSMC. It also opened investigations into other foreign chip companies. American companies like Nvidia and Qualcomm soon found their operations in China disrupted or shut down completely. This was no longer about trade. It was about national power. China had drawn a clear line and signaled to the world. It would no longer rely on foreign chip makers. The era of international tech cooperation was ending. In its place, two separate systems were emerging, one led by the US and its allies, and another by China. This event is a new version of the old Cold War Iron Curtain, but this time focused on technology. And unlike earlier trade conflicts, this one affects nearly every industry in the modern economy. But did the West bring this crisis upon itself? Over the last few years, the US government tried many different ways to stop China from becoming a tech superpower. In 2022, it passed the CHIPS Act to invest in its own chip factories. In 2023, it banned Nvidia from selling its most powerful AI chips to China. It also pressured countries like Japan and the Netherlands to stop selling China advanced chip-making tools. But these efforts may have had the opposite effect. China reacted by launching the largest chip-building plan in history that will cost $143 billion. Between 2022 and 2025, the Chinese government funded new chip companies, trained engineers, and built factories. It was a full national effort. Every province joined in. Universities were ordered to focus on chip research. And even companies from other industries were told to help with chip development. Some of China's actions were secret. Even with bans in place, Chinese import records showed a large rise in parts for advanced chip tools. Some of these came through countries like Malaysia or the United Arab Emirates. Russia also began licensing chip technologies that looked suspiciously like those from the West. There were reports of Iran offering help as well. At the same time, major American companies started to feel the pain. In the first quarter of 2025, Nvidia revealed it had taken a $5.5 billion revenue hit, a direct result of being shut out from China. Qualcomm saw its 5G chip shipments fall by over 30%. Apple had to delay its iPhone 17 launch because Chinese suppliers could not deliver key parts. US policies meant to hurt China were now hurting American tech companies as well. This shows how tricky economic war can be. When one side pushes too hard, the other side may innovate faster than expected. China was now in full-speed survival mode, and survival breeds strange forms of progress. Without access to the most advanced chip-making tools, many thought China would fall behind. But something surprising happened. China didn't give up. It found new ways to move forward, even if they were less efficient. One Chinese company, SI Carrier, revealed in late 2024 that it had developed a type of DUV lithography machine that could do something very complex: triple and even quadruple patterning. This means it can etch extremely small designs by repeating certain steps multiple times. It's slower, but it works. Around the same time, Huawei released its new smartphone, the Mate 60 Pro, powered by a 7-nanometer chip made in China. This shocked the world. How had they done it without EUV tools? The chip wasn't perfect. Yields were low. Production was unstable. But it was proof that China could still compete. While Huawei's new AI chip was already a major blow to Nvidia and the US tech industry, China didn't stop there. In a move that stunned global markets, Beijing announced new export controls on several critical materials used to produce advanced semiconductors, including rare metals like gallium and germanium. These are not only scarce, but extremely difficult to replace. Without them, the production of high-end chips becomes slower, more expensive, and in some cases nearly impossible. And here's the twist. These are the very same tools, export bans and trade restrictions, that the US and its allies have long used against China. Now China is flipping the script. It's as if Beijing is saying, if you don't want to sell us your chips, then we won't sell you the materials you need to make yours. With these new restrictions, China has gained unprecedented leverage. It now holds the power to choke the supply chains that American, Japanese, South Korean, and European chipmakers depend on. While Washington thought it was cornering China, it may have handed Beijing the upper hand instead. Huawei's 91C chip is already rolling out, taking Nvidia's place in key Chinese industries. The massive domestic demand ensures that US companies, if cut off from China, stand to lose billions in sales. And now, with China controlling access to essential minerals, global chip production is suddenly on shaky ground. The most shocking part? The West never saw it coming. Instead of buckling under pressure, China dug in, accelerated its innovation, reinforced its supply chains, and hit back with both technology and strategy. This isn't just retaliation. It's a pivot, a transformation, and perhaps the beginning of a new tech order where China is no longer a follower, but a leader. So the question is, did America just hand over the keys to the AI future? Or can it still catch up before it's too late? If you found this breakdown helpful, hit like, drop your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe for more deep dives into the shifting landscape of global tech and power.